Can you hear anything?
Compounding pharmacy?
Just to.
Are you hearing me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear my voice right now as I speak to you?
I can hear. I can hear you,
Okay.
but it's not
It
coming
might
to
be
me.
that you have to just do that so you
Okay.
can hear me when I cue you.
Sure.
Oh, good evening, everyone. It's 4 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday evening. The municipal elections 2014 here in the city of Danville. I'm Chuck Vipperman along with Jack Garrett reporting here on WBTM. And tonight, guys, we have just basically a very solid slate of candidates, Jack, quite frankly. We have 7 candidates running for 4 city council seats, 5 very qualified candidates running for 3 open school board seats. And right now, you have the latest election returns in terms of turnout today. You had a chance to talk to Danville Registrar Peggy Petty shortly before coming over here for this evening's live broadcast on WBTM and on River City TV, we might add. That's why I'm dressed so nicely tonight. You can't tell that on radio. But, Jack, first up, just give us a lowdown on what we were looking at turnout-wise, say, about 1 hour ago, right before the polls closed.
Chuck, just before the polls closed, Ballou Park was at about 18%. American Legion Post 325, the same, again about 18%. Langston Focus Center about 17%. Of course, Ballou Park and American Legion Post 325, 2 of Danville's larger precincts. Peggy Petty told me she was hoping for 20 to 25%. Just before the polls closed, she said she'd settle for 20%, was hoping for 22%. Now, earlier in the day, spoke to her and also made my tours in Green Street, Swanson Studios, the old Sutherland Mansion Annex, and Coates Recreation Center were right in the 10% range about that time. It was basically an uneventful day, no real confusion. Spoke with Dawn Witter earlier in the day, and she said some elderly residents who were being bussed into Park Avenue were confused when she approached them. They thought she'd dropped out of the race. Apparently there was some confusion between Witter and Whittle.
Right.
Madison Whittle, of course, dropped out of the race several weeks ago.
Right.
But I don't think that was by any means widespread. In fact, the registrar hadn't even received any reports of that.
Well, let's hope that was just a very, very isolated incident, and those voters were briefed on what the situation was. Now, again, kind of odd in that we had 9 candidates for the 5 council seats just a few weeks ago. Residency issues knocked a couple of them out. I don't see where that's made the race any more low-key. The only issue I would say from this year's race in particular, Jack, we don't have that one big overarching issue like we have had in some council elections. That, on occasion, has meant severe turnover on city council. We remember 2000 during the controversy following the school bond referendum vote. We had some wholesale changes, of course, going back even further, the 88 council election, shortly following annexation, wholesale changes on council. Seems like, historically speaking, here in Danville, you have to have something like that to bring about substantive changes. Not getting the vibe that that's the case this year.
Well, there was no hot button, hot topic this year that would really attract anyone to the polls. It's probably going to be about the same scenario we saw 2 years ago, 18%, 20%, maybe a little more. Certainly there was interest in the school board race this time, probably the largest slate of candidates we've ever seen, and that of course we'll definitely see some
we'll
newcomers
find out, yeah.
there.
And again, you mentioned the school board. We are, I guess, still in our first decade of elected school boards. So as an electorate, City of Danville voters are just now getting used to the idea, I think, of electing school board candidates rather than having them appointed by council. And I think this year's slate of candidates, where we have 5 candidates running for 3 seats, it's certainly the most interesting. There have been several years 3 running for 3, 4 running for 4, and we wouldn't even bother to talk about the school board numbers. That's not the case this year. We've seen as many school board signs as we have council this year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is this the 3rd occasion?
This will be the 4th, I believe.
The 4th time we've
yeah,
elected
I'm
school
just
board members?
going off the top, but I believe the first 2 were straight up 3 running for 3, 4 running for 4. We had 5 running for 4 last time, I believe was the case. But the school board elections have, on occasion, been anticlimactic here, but not the case this year. Of course, a couple of the incumbents are seeking re-election to the school board. A couple of the veterans, Philip Campbell and Reverend George Wilson, are on the slate of candidates, along with 3 newcomers: Sharon Dones, Stephen Gould, and Henry Walker. And again, from what we've been able to glean talking to the candidates and their supporters, these are 5 solid candidates.
Right, and Rebecca Bolton decided not to seek re-election after so many years. And Stephen Gould has certainly run a high-profile campaign, started early with a website and, of course, yard signs everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And when we look at the council candidates again, technically we have 3 incumbents and 5 newcomers on the ballot, but, of course, one of them that was on the official ballot today, Madison Whittle, dropped out of the race about 3 weeks ago. So, again, technically 7 running for 5. 4 of them are classified as newcomers, 2 of them not newcomers at all. Joyce Glace served 12 years here at Danville City Council, late 1980s through the year 2000. She's no stranger to voters. And, of course, the Reverend Thomas Motley in his third bid
run for council.
So those 2 are technically newcomers, but not really new at all. The 2 real newcomers we have on the ballot this year, James Buckner and Dawn Witter. Adam Tomer, of course, the one incumbent on City Council who opted not to run for re-election, and the other 3 did. They are John Gilstrap, Vice Mayor Dr. Gary Miller, and Alonzo Jones. Again, as we look at tradition, and that's what we have to go on right now as we wait for the first numbers to come in tonight, Jack, traditionally to have the incumbents voted off either in one or in mass, there has to be some big overarching issue. Barring that, again, you have to default to when we're handicapping this, you have to default to the 3 incumbents. There's no boxing saying you got to knock out the champ. You can't rely on the points of the scorecards to take the belt away from the champion. You got to knock out the champ, and I don't see any of these 3 necessarily being victims of a knockout, to use the metaphor this evening.
Well, I don't know, Chuck. Of course, we'll obviously see one new face since Adam Tomer isn't seeking re-election, but Dawn Witter and James Buckner have both run high-profile door-to-door campaigns, which have generally proved successful in Danville. Dawn's been everywhere, as has James, and both have strong grassroots support, good campaign structures. They've worked hard, they've been out often, and they've worked up to the wire.
You make a good point. We have seen over the past few elections a spate of younger candidates. We mentioned Adam Tomer, Lee Vogler 2 years ago, that have not only embraced the new media, that is, Facebook, Twitter, so-called social media, but they have not forgotten the old pounding of the pavement.
Right.
Dawn Witter and James Buckner have been very, very, very visible in terms of a neighborhood approach, and in terms of other, what you and I guess, would call old-fashioned ways of campaigning. They have not dismissed that at all, quite the opposite. So those are 2 formidable newcomer candidates. of course, one of them and will likely get on council the way the chips will fall. But in order for both of them to get on council,
one of them will certainly get on council.
Yeah, one of them will. But in order for both of them, one of the incumbents would be knocked out. Now, I'm not even going to begin to guess what the scenario there would be, but that is not implausible. We have on several occasions had strong incumbent returning candidates, or at least with a solid base of support, but you get a newcomer that really, really strikes a resonant message with the voters, and they get on. And that incumbent, I remember Philip Smith a couple of years ago, David Luther. Again, there's only so many seats, and if you get a strong newcomer candidate, that's going to happen. And if that's the case this evening, then the smart money says James Buckner and Dawn Witter are the two strongest candidates among the newcomers to again, one of them presumably will get on council. Somebody knew was going to get on council. The question is, will the three incumbents be able to hold their seats? And we'll find out, of course, shortly. Again, Danville's voting electorate votes at 17 precincts across the city. Of course, there's at 18th, the Central Absentee Voting Election District. Jack, you've got the numbers on some of the totals, and I always find this interesting. People go to vote to these places most every year. Of course, we got a couple of new ones. They don't realize sometimes how big or how small their precinct is. Now, again, everybody's vote counts one. That's not the issue. But we have a wide variety of eligible voters in each of the wards. I mean, sometimes it's a 5-to-1 difference in some of these cases.
Sure. You've got like Blue Park Rec Center. That's over 3,100 voters. You got over 1,000 at the Swanson Studio behind the museum, which is a relatively small precinct. Nearly 1,900 at the Salvation Army building. Johnson Magnet School is right at 1,500. 1,300 at Glenwood Rec Center. O.T. Bonner is more than 2,500. And then you've got the smaller precincts. And surprisingly, even some of those like Langston today, 870, the voter turnout was not bad for a councilmanic election.
Yeah, and again,
traditionally low turnout at that particular precinct.
We always grade on a curve. Yeah, when we look at these turnout totals, Jack, and simply because presidential election, you're going to get 70-75% turnout.
Everything.
Sure, yeah, and of course for council elections, again, unless you have that super duper unifying issue one way or the other, 20 to 22% is traditionally the turnout. Peggy Petty, the registrar, hoping we could inch up to 25, but we'll see what the numbers tell at the end of the evening. But again, with a crowded field, I say crowded, still 7 running for 5. That gives voters options, or 7 running for 4 rather. That gives voters options as we head into the councilmanic elections. And of course, the school board we mentioned, easily the best field of candidates, the deepest field of candidates we've seen since we started electing school boards here just about 8 years ago. We're going to take a quick break right now and come back in 60 seconds, and I think we are getting ready for our first numbers here. The first returns from the 2014 Danville City Council and School Board elections. Our coverage tonight brought to you by Wilkins & Company Realtors. This evening. In a couple of minutes, we'll be hearing from Danville Circuit Court Clerk Gerald Gibson, who will read the first batch of numbers. Again, the polls closed at 7 o'clock after 13 hours of voting this morning and this afternoon. As Gerald strolls to the mic, we'll go ahead and cue him and welcome Circuit Court Clerk Gerald Gibson to the broadcast. Gerald?
Thank you, Chuck. We have three wards reporting to begin with. Ward number 14, Gibson School. First for City Council, Buckner 5, Gilstrap 26, Glaze 62, Jones 61, Miller 32, Motley 46, Whittle 2, Witter 11. For School Board, Campbell 66, Dones 34, Gould 14, Walker 6, Wilson 48. We had 1 write-in for City Council and 0 for the school board in Ward 14. Ward number 15, Schofield, Buckner 159, Gilstrap 238, Glaze 137, Jones 191, Miller 196, Motley 89, Whittle 36, Witter 117. For school board, Campbell 167, Dones 126, Gould 238, Walker 128, Wilson 138, 2 write-ins for City Council and 3 for school board. Ward number 11, Bonner, Buckner 168, Gilstrap 253, Glaze 206, Jones 252, Miller 237, Motley 120, Whittle 36, Witter 143. For school board, Campbell 251, Dawns 186, Gould 232, Walker 150, Wilson 169, 5 write-ins for City Council and 5 for school board. The cumulative totals: Buckner 332, Gilstrap 517, Glaze 405, Jones 504, Miller 465, Motley 255, Whittle 74, Witter 271. For school board, Campbell 484, Dones 346, Gould 484, Walker 264, Wilson 355.
Okay, and thanks a lot to Gerald for the first numbers. 3 of the precincts have phoned in, and so let's give you a reset here. 3 down, 15 to go from Danville City Council chambers as we count the votes in municipal election 2014. Right now, leading the way in the City Council race is John Gilstrap with 517 votes, an incumbent. Second place, Alonzo Jones, 504 votes. And third place, another incumbent. All 3 of the incumbents are showing the way so far. Gary Miller with 465 votes. Right now, the 4th spot goes to Joyce Glaze with 405 votes. Right behind her, just out of the running right now, again, very early in the process, James Buckner with 332 votes. Following that, Dawn Witter, 271 votes. Thomas Motley, 255. And, of course, Madison Whittle, who has withdrawn. But right now, the 3 incumbents and Joyce Glaze are setting the pace as the top 4 City Council. For the school board, leading vote getter after 3 precincts, Philip Campbell, 484 votes. And Stephen Gould, 484, a tie there for first. Second place, or third place rather, and the last spot on right now is Reverend George Wilson at 355. Just 9 votes behind him, Sharon Dones at 346. Henry Walker showing 5th right now at 264. So again, Jack, very, very, very early results here, we have to emphasize. But the incumbents are polling very, very well in both instances. Again, no surprise there. We do have a strong showing from Joyce Glaze so far in the first 3 precincts. Again, something to be said for name recognition, certainly, and a couple of the precincts have polled fairly well for Joyce Glaze, who was a 3-term member of council, again, dating back 14 years ago.
Now, which precincts have we heard from thus far?
The precincts so far, Gibson and Schofield, and quite frankly, I did not catch the last one. We were trying to move our radio over here to try to get that fixed. But right now we have 3 down and 15 to go. Again, we'll have the Central Absentee Voter Election District up shortly as we get ready for some more numbers. But again, just to let you know, the 3 incumbents right now are leading the field early on in the City Council race. John Gilstrap, 517 votes. Alonzo Jones, 504. And Dr. Gary Miller, 465. You get a pretty good gap there to 405. That's the 4th leading vote total. that is Joyce Glace right now, and right now that's the money spot. Just behind Glace with 332 votes is James Buckner, 271 for Witter, and 255 for Thomas Motley. So right now, again, as expected, the three incumbents are polling very well across the board. And traditionally, what we see from the incumbents is, especially for the very strong candidates, they will poll well across the demographics that we see throughout the precincts here, throughout the various the large precincts, the small precincts, and all those in between. And right now, we're certainly getting that vibe as we look at the totals here. The incumbents are pretty much showing the way in all of the precincts at this point. Jack, again, we'll worry about the turnout totals as we get a better total overall. Don't know if we're going to quite get to 25%, but anything popping out so far, again, this is not a surprise. Again, incumbents, unless there's some major overarching compelling issue, incumbents are going to be hard to beat. But early on, about what we expected, I suppose.
Stephen Gould doing extremely well here in the school board race.
That's true.
Top vote getter there with Campbell to this point. Just 3 precincts reporting. And Wilson not far behind at 355. And Doan's making a surprisingly good showing here.
Very solid. And again, just to give you an idea, the school board race was the one that we said for the first time since we got elected school boards, hey, we might have a race here. And we do, at least for the top. Philip Campbell, the incumbent, and Stephen Gould, the newcomer, are co-sharing the lead right now, 484 votes apiece, 355 for Wilson. And again, only 9 back to Sharon Doans. That's very solid. And, of course, we've got 3 down and 15 to go here. We're just getting rolling here from City Council chambers. We're going to take a quick break right now. I'm seeing some more numbers come in, and as soon as we get those numbers, we'll broadcast them to you live. Our coverage tonight on WBTM is brought to you by Wilkins & Company Realtors. Good evening again. Chuck Vipperman and Jack Garrett reporting tonight for WBTM live wall-to-wall coverage of the 2014 Danville City Council and School Board elections. And, of course, we're simulcasting tonight with our friends Mark Aaron at River City Television. That's why I am wearing a suit and tie. Don't get used to it, folks. Looking good for television. Jack, we have 3 down and, again, 15 to go. We had a question about that. Yeah, just for the purposes of reporting, we refer to the what they call CAVED, the Central Absentee Voting Election District. Those are the absentees. Peggy Petty tells us that the number of absentees that recorded from people voting in this election, more or less on par, numerically speaking, from previous years. When you combine that with other factors, yeah, you get a projected 20-25% turnout on the high end. But right now, again, those absentee votes, for those unfamiliar with the process, that will be read as if it is its own election district, its own ward. So those numbers will be totaled up and will be read once they are tabulated, along with the others. Also, we understand with the new technology, new information, there are only 2 phone lines coming into here as opposed to 5 in circuit court office. So, again, trying to get the same information into 2 lines as opposed to 5. Maybe a slight delay from that standpoint, but otherwise, here's what we have right now. 3 incumbents early on are showing the way after 3 precincts have phoned in. Leading vote getter right now, John Gilstrap, 517, 504 for Alonzo Jones, and 465 for Gary Miller. Those are the 3 incumbents. Right now, the 4th spot, which would be on council, is Joyce Glaze with 405 votes. 5th place right now, just out of the running, again with earlier on, James Buckner, 332 votes. Dawn Witter next at 271. And Thomas Motley very close there at 255. On the school board race, of course, 2 of the incumbents are polling fairly well. And right now, here's what we have. Actually, we got a tie for the lead in the school board race right now, a newcomer and an incumbent. Stephen Gould and Philip Campbell each with 484 votes. Right now, the the third spot goes to the incumbent, Reverend George Wilson, a longtime board chairman. Just 9 votes out of the running right now. Sharon Dones, one of the 3 newcomers on the school board ballot this year in Danville. And in 5th place, local teacher Henry Walker, 264 votes. Again, we're very, very early in the process here. The only trend that really you can glean at this point is that, as expected for the most part, the incumbents are polling well. It'll be a battle among the newcomers to try to get what is essentially one open seat on each panel, Danville City Council and the school board. Right now,
Gerald Gibson.
I believe we have some more numbers, a big stack of papers in Gerald Gibson's hands. So, Gerald, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chuck. 3 additional wards reporting. Ward number 5, Forest Hills, Buckner 153, Gilstrap 215, Glaze 52, Jones 169, Miller 172, Motley 36, Whittle 48, Witter 153. For school board, Campbell 99, Dones 124, Gould 234, Walker 151, Wilson 64. We had 1 write-in for city council and 3 for school board from Forest Hills. Ward number 4, Bellew Park, Buckner 280, Gilstrap 449, Glaze 147, Jones 345, Miller 369, Motley 108, Whittle 91, Witter 272, for school board Campbell 266, Dones 250, Gould 425, Walker 267, Wilson 193, 6 write-ins for city council and 6 for school board. Ward number 7, Buckner 49, Gilstrap 96, Glaze 134, Jones 140, Miller 81, Motley 100, Whittle 12, Witter 29, Campbell 161, Dones 84, Gould 51, Walker 47, and Wilson 94. No votes for city council on the write-in side or the school board.
And which was that, Gerald? Which ward was that?
Number 7, Salvation Army.
Salvation Army, got you.
Cumulative totals, Buckner 328, Gilstrap 1362, Glaze 807, Jones 1241, Miller 1210, Motley 584, Whittle 227, Witter 772, school board Campbell 1093, Dones 853, Gould 1309, Walker 821, and Wilson 785.
And give us Buckner's cumulative total again. I believe you said 328. I'm thinking it might be something different than that.
It looks like a typo. Let me get that correct.
We will run the numbers and we'll have the official
Thank
total
you.
back to you. Again, what we have right now is 6 of the 18 wards having phoned in, and of course we'll run the numbers. Buckner's total, the cumulative total given there, clearly a typo. But right now, again, the trend continues for the incumbents in Danville City Council. Right now, it's looking like all 3 will indeed return. John Gilstrap carrying the ticket so far, 1,362 votes. Second place is Alonzo Jones, 1,241. Dr. Gary Miller, third place, 1,210. And again, right now we will have to get James Buckner's vote total. It was 332 before that. I'm thinking it's not 328 now. He did not lose 4 votes in those precincts, Forest Hills, Bellew Park, and Salvation Army that we reported just now. So we'll get Buckner's total for you right now. It's looking like he is in the 4th place spot as we speak. 5th place goes to Joyce Glaze at 807. 507 votes. And Dawn Witter right now 7th place, very close to Glace's total at 772. Motley right now 584 votes for Thomas Motley. In the school board race, looks like the incumbents are still showing the way for the most part. Stephen Gould, though, is dusting the field right now. 1,309 votes for Stephen Gould. Philip Campbell is second place right now with 1,093. And Jack, we have a change in the weather here for the third place spot. It's Sharon Dones now, 853 votes. Right now she has 853. Reverend George Wilson has 785. And actually Henry Walker is the next.
With 821.
Yeah, he's in fourth place right now. So right now we have an incumbent who's fallen behind, and what's shaping up to be a pretty interesting fight for that third and final spot if the trends continue. Dones at 853, Walker at 821, and Reverend George Wilson 785. Right now, 6 down and 12 to go. Literally 1/3 of the way through the vote totals. You can throw a blanket over those three. That's not a big difference at all.
Just very minor difference there.
Yeah, and the way the trends are going, it doesn't really suggest that, quite frankly, that trend is going to change. I think those three are going to be very close. Now, again, we have some very, very large wards that are still out, so to say. We haven't heard back from them just yet. I'm going to do some quick on-the-fly math here to try to give you a more accurate vote total on James Buckner. Again, we had him with 332 earlier. My spidey senses tell me he's got more than 328 votes now. But when we add up the totals from the other precincts that have since phoned in, being Ballou Park, Forest Hills, and the Salvation Army, we do some quick math on the numbers here. And again, I apologize. It's very hard to talk and add at the same time. This is easier for whatever reason in football. 482 additional votes there for Buckner. So right now, again, this is unofficial. This has not been confirmed. I've got him with 810 votes. Right now, that would put him 3 votes in the lead over Joyce Glace. If my math is correct, and folks, it may very well not be. Just so don't quote me on that. But right now, at least unconfirmed math has James Buckner in the 4th spot by all of 3 votes over Joyce Glace. So again, Jack, the trend appears to be the incumbents on council are safe. The battle for the 4th spot is going to be fierce. 1 newcomer, 1 incumbent, apparently safe in the school board race. The battle for the transfer spot is going to be where we get our most fun over the next, say, 45 minutes to 1 hour. We're going to take a quick break right now and reset ourselves here at Council Chambers. As the numbers come in, things are getting much more interesting. Our coverage tonight on WBTM is brought to you by Wilkinson Company Realtors. Good evening again. Chuck Vipperman along with Jack Garrett here at Council Chambers. We're not going to promise the same amount of drama that we had back in 2000 covering the presidential election, but right now it's certainly very interesting in the 2 transfer spots here as we tally the vote totals for Danville City Council and the school board. Right now for Danville City Council, the 3 incumbents appear to be very safe. John Gilstrap leading the ticket, 1,362 votes. Second place, another incumbent, Alonzo Jones, 1,241. And third place right now, Gary Miller, 1,210 votes. And you compare that to about the 400-vote gap that we have to the newcomers, and you see just how safe the incumbents are. Those 3 are going to be reelected. Then it gets interesting, that 4th and final spot, which gets on council. Again, our unofficial tabulations, as we were adding them up on the fly here, had James Buckner with 810 votes, Joyce Glace with 807. Right now, those are the 2 that are most closely battling it out for that 5th spot, or the 4th spot rather, and just behind them, Dawn Witter, 772. So much like in the school board race, there are 3 candidates nip and tuck for 1 spot that would be remaining open given the trends right now. And carrying 7th place right now in the city council race, Reverend Thomas Motley, 584 votes. So again, the 3 incumbents and are safe, and the three of the newcomers anyway, are battling for that fourth and final spot on Danville City Council. Similar drama right now in the school board race, where a newcomer, Stephen Gould, is carrying the water right now in terms of vote totals. 1,309 votes for Stephen Gould, 1,093 for Philip Campbell. Right now, given the trends, those two appear to be safe. And then it gets interesting when we get to that third and final spot on the Danville School Board. Sharon Dones, 853 votes. Henry Walker, 821. Reverend George Wilson, 785. So, again, we have a grand total of 68 votes that are separating those three candidates who are vying for essentially one school board seat. And when we look at the city council totals, Jack, we have 32 votes that are separating, actually 38 votes that are separating the three newcomer candidates that are vying for one seat there. We don't script this, but that's pretty good drama.
All still within striking distance.
Exactly, and I know it's not doing the heart rates of the respective competitors any good right now, but again, this is... from an overall standpoint, again, we mentioned it, incumbents, hard to beat. We may lose an incumbent on the city school board. City council, though, the three, John Gilstrap, Alonzo Jones, and Gary Miller, look to be very, very safe at this point. Again, just to let you know where we are, we have 6 precincts having phoned in. There are 18 that make up the city of Danville, including the one central absentee voter election district. So quite literally, in terms of numbers of wards phoned in, we're only a third of the way through. I mean, these numbers are going to change. There are a couple of the smaller precincts have demographics that are going to favor a couple of the candidates, but in terms of total voters, historically, that hasn't been really enough to turn a big deficit. They're going to have to poll well in some of the bigger precincts that are still out. Now, Ballou Park is the biggest, 3,138 voters in Ballou Park, and they have reported, but we got some other big ones out. Bonner School, American Legion Post 325, Grove Park School, all of them with over 2,000 registered voters. Also, Park Avenue Elementary School has yet to phone in, and Coates Rec Center is almost at 2,000. So you get the idea. Of the 6 that have phoned in, we have a couple of the smaller ones that are included in that. So in terms of total number of Danville voters, we would be, I would think, technically less than a third of the way through. 6 out of 18 counts the third, but a couple of these smaller precincts are the ones that have phoned in. So at this point, we are, again, 6 out of 18, but quite frankly, more than 2/3 of Danville's votes have not been counted yet based on the precincts that have phoned in. Again, hard to explain in 50 words or less how that works, but suffice to say there's a lot of votes out there, and right now the way the trends are looking, we're going to have some pretty high drama for the final spots on these respective panels. Right now on City Council, 3 seats appear safe. The newcomers, the incumbents rather, John Gilstrap, Alonzo Jones, and Gary Miller, right now looking like they will have no problems returning to council. In the school board race, 2 of the seats right now seem secure. 1 newcomer and 1 incumbent. Stephen Gould leading the way, 1,309 votes, and Philip Campbell more than 200 votes behind him at 1,093. In both races right now, the drama is in that last spot. Coming up, the 4th seat for City Council, we have 3 candidates that are separated by 38 votes, and in the 3rd spot, which is the final spot on the Danville School Board, we have 3 candidates that are separated by 68 votes. And again, we're talking vote totals of near 1,000 for most of the candidates. So that tells you how close we are and where the drama is going to be over the next several minutes as we get some of these precincts to phone in. Jack, you were able to hit several of the precincts today and kind of get a feel for the election, as it were. Given the morning news duties, I'm only able to go to my precinct, Bonner, get in and get out and try to do it relatively quickly. But you've had a couple of the spots today. Give us a sense. At Bonner, I can tell you that I believe just about every one of the candidates, council and school board, had somebody there. They were very active, and I think that was pretty much the case citywide.
Well, the candidates were well represented. They had, if not there personally, they had someone there handing out literature or shaking hands. As you mentioned, it's looking well for the incumbents, especially on council. And as you pointed out earlier, there was no single defining issue to really get the electorate out or to cause any controversy or any problems with the incumbents. We talked about the River District, we talked about coal ash, we talked about job development, but mostly the candidates are all on the same page as far as those issues are concerned.
Not a lot of stark differences between the council candidates. And again, the issues you mentioned, Cole Asheville was terrible. Yeah, we all want more jobs. Yeah, the River District's looking good. Not an awful lot you can sink your teeth into there in terms of really spirited debate. A lot of it will depend upon the emphasis that each particular candidate puts on an issue, where they rank them, so to speak, and how they connect with their base. We mentioned two of the newcomers in particular, James Buckner and Dawn Witter. Very, very good on both fronts. Social media, that is to say using the internet, Facebook, Twitter, and other electronic means to reach voters, but also good old pavement paving.
The grassroots campaign.
Yes, sir.
Door to door.
Knocking on the door, shaking hands, doing this and that. And so they did not abandon the traditional methods of campaigning, and not to suggest that the three incumbents did, because they were out and about too. But again, name recognition means something. Familiarity with voters means something. And again, I always go back to that old boxing analogy. You can't rely on the scorecards to beat the champ. You've got to knock the champ out and leave no doubt. And to do that in a councilmanic election, history has demonstrated to us, you have to have at least one very significant overriding issue that resonates with voters, that rallies voters for somebody, against somebody. We just don't have that this year. As simple as that. School board, though, a little bit different climate right now. Again, major transition for the school system over the past couple of years. It's not every school system that shuts down essentially 50% of their elementary schools, going from 9 to 6 in that regard. And of course, new superintendent, new administration, new principals everywhere. Major time of transition on the school board. If you were going to find issues that were going to galvanize some voters, either yay or nay, you were going to find it on the school board. And Jack, that's one of the reasons just as many people were looking at the school board race as the council race. These numbers bear this out. Generally speaking, in the past, the city council vote totals, that is to say just the cumulative totals, have been much higher than the votes tallied for the school board. That is to say, people would vote for their full slate of council candidates, maybe one or two on the school board, and leave it at that.
On the school board,
yeah. I don't see that as the case. Right now, 1,362 votes for John Gilstrap, leading the council race, 1,241 for Jones, 1,210 for Miller. Stephen Gould, 1,309 on the school board race. So the gap, again, in terms of cumulative votes between the two entities, city council and school board, there's only a slight difference.
Well, there's a great deal of interest there.
Yes.
And of course, the disciplinary problems that we've experienced at Bonner, that was a high-profile issue.
Lots to sink your teeth into. Plus, of course, councilmanic elections coming as they do in the right when we're wrapping up budget seasons too. That gives you something to talk about in terms of budgeting ideas, yay or nay. So yeah, in terms of the school board in particular, lots of meaty issues. Found it interesting this year in terms of budgeting. This was one of the lower key council years. We've had proposed cigarette taxes in the past that have galvanized voters, or at least piqued somebody's interest. This year we didn't really have an awful lot of that. So
we didn't talk about closing a library.
No, we didn't. Not this year. But council, of course, had by their standards a very low-key budget year. They're ready to wrap that up very soon here. But in the school board, there was some debate. In particular, as council contributes to local share. One of the big debates that came up during the forums that we had for the respective council candidates in the school board was what role does city council need to play in providing that local funding for the school board? Again, right as it stands, the school board's autonomous. They don't. They just accept the local money, and they have full control over how it's spent. Several on council would like to have a little bit more of a say, but they're obviously restricted. That's been a kind of a consecutive debate. There's really, in terms of debate, there's not much to debate. What they can and cannot do is fairly well spelled out, but council does have the bully pulpit, and one of the issues in the council race this year is which of the candidate or candidates was willing to use that bully pulpit to exercise some influence, I suppose, over school board spending. That was one of the things that came up several times. So, we sometimes treat the city council and school board elections as unrelated, and technically they are, but they are very much interrelated too, in that the two entities work very closely with each other. And of course, other cross-pollination, Alonzo Jones, a former longtime member of the school board, is now a member of Danville City Council. Of course, a retired educator, Joyce Glace, is one of the candidates in the council race. So, again, you can't talk about one without the other. But I think we have gotten in the habit of kind of, I don't want to say dismissing the school board race, but when you have 3 running for 3 and 4 running for 4, there's really
Not
not much
much to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we projected those winners, as I recall, pretty early in the process. So, but yeah, the things are different this year. Danville School Board probably on equal footing, quite frankly, with Danville City Council in terms of overall voter interest. Again, let's do a quick reset here before we get some more numbers. Here's what we have right now: 6 wards out of 18 reporting. The 3 incumbents are showing the way in the Danville City Council race. John Gilstrap, 1,362 votes. Alonzo Jones, 1,241. Dr. Gary Miller, 1,210. The final spot right now on council, James Buckner, 810 votes. Right behind him, Joyce Glace, 807. Right behind her, Dawn Witter, 772. 38 votes separating those last 3 candidates who are vying for the 1 spot. Thomas Motley right now showing 7th place at 584. In the school board race right now, it appears 1 incumbent and 1 newcomer are safe. Stephen Gould with 1,309 votes leading the way right now. Philip Campbell with 1,093 votes. Then we get to the 3rd and final spot on the school board. That's when it gets interesting. Right now, Sharon Dones, 853 votes. 821 for Henry Walker, 785 for George Wilson. So right now, suffice to say, we have got some high drama that'll be coming in as we get the final numbers, or I should say the next numbers. We're not going to be final here for a while, the way things are looking. 6 out of 18 wards have phoned in. We'll bring you back in about 30 seconds to Danville City Council chambers as we try to crunch some more numbers and get some more fresh numbers for you as our coverage of 2014 City Council and School Board elections continues. It's brought to you on WBTM by Wilkins & Company Realtors. Welcome back again, everyone. Chuck Vipperman, and for those of you watching us tonight on River City TV, you notice Jack Garrett's not here. I sent him out for some water. We're doing a filibuster here tonight, trying to get these returns in. And right now, we understand there are some more numbers right now that they're crunching, and we will have some fresh numbers for you shortly. If you're just tuning in, the Danville City Council race appears to be safe for the 3 incumbents. Right now, the leading vote getter is John Gilstrap, 1,362 votes. Second place, Alonzo Jones, 1,241. Third place, Dr. Gary Miller, 1,210. Right now, the 4th place is a crapshoot. The final spot on council, vying for it right now with a narrow lead, is James Buckner with 810 votes. 807 votes for Joyce Glace, 772 for Dawn Witter. 3 candidates separated by all of 38 votes right now. Again, we are very, very early in the process, and there are going to be some big game-changing wards that we'll be reporting in shortly. Right now, 7th place in the councilmanic race, Reverend Thomas Motley with 584 votes. Equal drama from the school board, where we have 1 incumbent and 1 newcomer that appear to be in very good shape right now, 1/3 of the way through the process. Stephen Gould leading the way with 1,309 votes. Philip Campbell, one of the incumbents, 1,093 votes. He's in 2nd place. The drama there, again, much like in council, for that last spot. Right now, 3rd and final spot on the school board would go to Sharon Dones at 853 votes, but hot on her heels, Henry Walker, 821 votes, and Reverend George Wilson, still very, very, very much in the running, 785 votes. So 68 votes separating the 3 school board candidates who are fighting it out right now for that 3rd and final spot. Far and away the most drama we've had from a school board race since Danville went to elected school boards not quite a decade ago. Again, 18 wards make up the electorate here in the city of Danville, and of course the one of them is the Central Absentee Voting Election District. That's tabulated and reported just as a regular ward, just like the others here. So when General Gibson resumes reading the numbers here, he will read the Central Absentee Voting Election District just as if it were a ward. A couple of the bigger precincts out right now that have not yet reported, but we think are getting ready to be tabulated right now. Coach Rec Center with nearly 2,000 voters. Park Avenue, 2,200 are on the rolls there. Grove Park School, 2,262 voters. Other big ones that are still out: Bonner Middle School, 2,500 registered voters at Bonner, 2,400 registered voters at American Legion Post 325. Now, of those precincts that have phoned in, the largest is one of them, Blue Park Rec Center. 3,138 voters are registered to vote there. But also some of the smaller ones have phoned in, including, Forest Hills is about the third smallest at 952. Gibson, the smallest far and away with 422 registered voters, is among those that has phoned in as well. So you're getting an idea. Some of the, a couple of the smaller precincts are among the 6 that we do have the totals for right now, and some of the bigger ones are still out there yet to be counted. So quite frankly, if you do the math, more than 2/3 of the votes are still out there as we begin tabulating the totals here in the city council and school board race. Again, these are 4-year terms in both instances. The city council elections are staggered. There are 9 members of Danville City Council. This year, 4 seats are up. 2 years from now, 5 seats will be up. And again, of the 4 seats this year, 3 of the incumbents decided to run. 1 did not. Adam Tomer opted to end his 2 terms on Danville City Council. So that creates the 1 open spot, presumably, it'll have to be at least 1 newcomer, of course, in council. And the way the votes are falling right now, it certainly looks like that's going to be the case, with the 3 incumbents polling very, very well at this juncture. Now, again, for the school board, it is a 7-member panel, and again, staggered just like Danville City Council, in that we have 3 seats up this year. In the 2016 councilmanic/school board elections, there will be 4 school board seats that are up for grabs. Of the 3 incumbents in the school board race this year, 2 of them decided to run again: Philip Campbell and Reverend George Wilson. Rebecca Bolton opted not to seek re-election. And so much like in the city council race, the relative activity or non-activity of the incumbents, whether or not they decided to run, created the likelihood or the actual reality that we will have at least 1 new member on each panel. We'll have at least 1 new city council member, at least 1 new school board member, and depending upon how these final votes fall, we may have more than 1, particularly on the school board, the way things are looking right now. Again, a quick recap. The 3 incumbents on city council are showing the way right now, with room to spare, quite frankly. 1,362 votes for John Gilstrap, 1,241 for Alonzo Jones, 1,210 for Dr. Gary Miller. Then you have a pretty significant gap from 1,210 to 810 back to the 4th spot. James Buckner right now carrying that, but he has a not so lofty 3-vote cushion as we have it now over Joyce Glaze, 807 votes, 772 for Dawn Witter. So again, you throw a blanket over those 3, that those numbers are going to go haywire here in a second when we process the latest ones that are coming in here. The school board race, again, similar story. The big difference, though, a newcomer is showing the way there big time. 1,309 votes for Stephen Gould, 1,093 for Philip Campbell, and then, much like with the council race, the transfer spot is the interesting spot. Sharon Dones right now with that 3rd and final spot, 853 votes, 821 for Henry Walker, and 785 for George Wilson. Jack, the parallels between the 2 sets of vote totals here is striking, in that we have a couple of the seats that appear to be safe, and the 1 seat up for grabs is very much up for grabs right now. It is wide open, isn't it?
It is, and we're still waiting these other returns. Is there some problem or that we're aware of?
Not yet. We have a couple that have clearly phoned in, and they're processing them now. Of course, one of the issues we had, and we mentioned it earlier tonight, the only 2 active phone lines with the new equipment and whatnot here that are feeding into City Council. We were warned by the registrar there may be some delays in reporting the totals, and I expect that's what we're experiencing this evening. I can only imagine how maddening it is for the candidates who have worked. I'm going to guess these guys have not gotten much sleep over the past at least couple of days. They were
couple of weeks, probably.
Up well before 6 o'clock this morning to work the polls, to press the flesh, to pound the pavement one final time, and now here we are, 45, 50 minutes into the broadcast, 55 minutes actually into the broadcast, and now we're waiting on the numbers to come in. It is a maddening process. process for council and school board candidates as we wait to find out what will happen here. And again, it's not like this is a slam dunk race. This is not a school board race where 3 are running for 3 or 4 are running for 4, or a council race where you have 4 heavily favored incumbents that will return. No, that's not the case. We have drama tonight. We have a transfer spot in both races that is right now completely up for grabs as I guess we can call it a dramatic pause. And that's the way I'm going to classify it. That's probably not very popular in here right now. Especially among the candidates who are involved in the very, very close races that we have for the final spot here, city council and school board elections. And again, we mentioned the elections are staggered. In 2016, there will be 5 members of Danville City Council whose terms expire, and of course, it'll be up to them as to whether they seek re-election. Those 5 that'll be up in a couple of years include Fred Shanks, Lee Vogler, Mayor Sherman Saunders' term will run out in a couple of years. Buddy Raleigh will be up in a couple of years. Larry Campbell will be up in 2 years. So. Again, we handicap it then. We've got another very compelling Danville City Council race in a couple of years even. But right now our focus is on 2014, and our focus is on that 4th and final spot. The incumbents seem to be pretty well in good shape right now. John Gilstrap leading the way, 1,362 votes, 1,241 for Alonzo Jones, 1,210 for Gary Miller, and then a big gap back to that 4th spot. Right now it's James Buckner, 810 votes. 807, that's right, 810 to 807 for Joyce Glaze, and 772 for Dawn Witter. Right now, Thomas Motley bringing up the rear, 584. And, of course, Madison Whittle's name still on the ballot today, but he has withdrawn. Nonetheless, he's picked up 227 votes in the process because the ballots had already been printed when Madison Whittle announced that he was going to step down from the race. And, of course, earlier in the process, Jack, we had Justin Farrell, another of the younger candidates that was almost certainly going to be very active in social media and in pounding the pavement. Some good old-fashioned residency questions with driver's license requirements and stuff that it'll take greater minds than mine to figure out. But long story short, there were some questions, and better safe than sorry, Justin Farrell dropped out of the race, and even though he is living in the city of Danville, but according to the driver's license, he was not. So anyway, long story short, he dropped out of the race. We went from 9 running for 4 to 7 running for 4 in just a matter of a couple of weeks. Don't think that diminished the interest any. From what I can tell, the 7 candidates we had on the ballot, all very strong candidates, even some of the newcomers with lots of name recognition. And the turnout today is going to be pretty solid. Not going to hit the 25% mark, and I don't think. But then again, we have numbers still out. We're just waiting on the process over here, and boy, I feel like I'm calling a rain delay, Jack.
How many terms did Joyce Glaze?
She served 3 terms
before she was voted off council.
1988 through 2000. She was one of the winners in the post-annexation council election where we saw some wholesale changes. Now, if you'll recall, we had a couple of resignations from the board and appointments. John Hamlin was actually appointed to the school board after the annexation vote. I think it was Aubrey Farrell that had stepped down in the wake of that, and so and he was reelected in '88. Joyce Glaze was elected in that '88 race, which was, boy, as I recall, there were 11 running for 4 that year. That was a very wild and woolly race.
You have a good memory.
That's the.
Now, she also ran for the state senate and
she
House
did.
of Delegates.
Yeah, she ran as actually once for the state senate against Charles Hawkins back in, I believe, '96, and of course in 2002 she won what was essentially a wildcat Democratic primary. Never will forget it because Whit Clement announced just a couple of weeks before the election he was all set for a big race against Danny Marshall. Whit Clement announced he would not be running for re-election, and so the local Democrats had to scramble to find a candidate. They held essentially a wild firehouse primary, I guess the term is, here at the library, where there were maybe 5 candidates.
4 or 5, yes.
Yeah, and of course Joyce Glaze, with her name recognition and her experience in mobilizing supporters at short notice, she was able to get over and win the nomination with ease. Of course, Danny Marshall won the general election in November. Since then, Glaze has not been on the ballot for any official, but she's been very active in the Democratic Party. You go to any of the Democratic functions,
she's there.
You'll see her there.
Loyal. Do you remember the other candidates from the Firehouse primary?
Oh,
Robert
boy, Q. Jones, Tommy Cox. Now you're really taxing my memory. Is there a prize for this? I know we had at least 4, possibly 5 candidates, but again, it was such again, it was like a wildcat blitz there, because they had literally 2 weeks to find a candidate and to promote them in an election. I mean, that's
and at the time, Danny Marshall had served very briefly on council. What, maybe a year?
He had served 2 years at that point on council. Of course, he was the leading vote getter in the 2000 election and had pretty well handled himself well on council, obviously. But the opportunity for Republican opposition came up in the local House of Delegates seat that year, and I remember bracing for a very, very spirited race between Danny Marshall and Whit Clement. A race that never materialized because Whit Clement withdrew with just, again, literally weeks before Election Day. So, yeah, in that respect, Joyce Glace ended up getting the Democratic nomination there. But beyond that, that's the last time she's been on the ballot in an official capacity for elected office. Right now, the welcome sight of Gerald Gibson streaming to the microphone. And, Gerald, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Chuck. As you would state at the radio station, we had a little technical difficulty, but hopefully we got it all straightened out. Ward number 8, Johnson School, Buckner 90, Gilstrap 115, Glaze 88, Jones 134, Miller 115, Motley 59, Whittle 20, Whitter 74, School Board Campbell 115, Dawns 83, Gould 111, Walker 63, Wilson 90. No write-ins for school board or council for ward number 8. Ward number 17, Coates School. Buckner 241, Gilstrap 307, Glaze 71, Jones 196, Miller 265, Motley 68, Whittle 57, Witter 191, School Board Campbell 153, Dawns 163, Gould 318, Walker 206, Wilson 117, 2 write-ins for City Council, none for School Board. Ward number 10, Woodbury Hills, Buckner 168, Gilstrap 194, Glaze 98, Jones 167, Miller 178, Motley 71, Whittle 32, Witter 104, School Board Campbell 164, Dawns 106, Gould 216, Walker 127, Wilson 117. No write-ins for City Council or School Board. Cumulative totals: Buckner 1313, Gilstrap 1893, Glaze 995, Jones 1655, Miller 1645, Motley 697, Whittle 334, Witter 1094. For School Board, Campbell 1442, Dawns 1156, Gould 1839, Walker 1145, Wilson 1030.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gerald. And right now that puts us in a very strict technical sense halfway through with 9 of the polling places having phoned in. So 9 out of 18 are in. And boy, howdy, the drama is in the school board. Right now, again, Stephen Gould is dusting the field, quite frankly, 1,839 votes. The newcomer is very safe. Also safe, Philip Campbell, one of the incumbents, with 1,442 votes. Those two look like they're going on. After that, it gets interesting. Third place spot right now, Sharon Dones, 1,156 votes. Fourth place, just out of the running by a whopping 11 votes, Henry Walker, 1,145. Still very much in the running, Reverend George Wilson, another of the incumbents, 1,030 votes. So we have 11 votes separating third place from fourth place on the school board, and of course, third place is the magic one that everyone wants. And again, you go back about another 100 votes or so. Reverend George Wilson after that, 1,030 votes. That's the separation we have on the school board. City council race is becoming a bit clearer. We're still clear on the fact that the three incumbents are almost certainly going to be reelected. John Gilstrap leading the ticket right now with 1,893 votes, 1,655 for Alonzo Jones, 1,645 for Dr. Gary Miller. Those are the three incumbents, and they are looking like they will be on. Right now, we're getting a sense of clarity, Jack, for that fourth and final spot. James Buckner with 1,313 votes. Now with a little bit of breathing room over fifth place, Dawn Witter, 1,094. So right now as we speak, that's 216 votes or so, 219 votes rather, separating those two. That's the gap now between on council and off council, and with halfway through, I don't want to say that's a comfortable margin by any stretch, but it is a margin, which is more than we've had to this point.
Certainly widened it considerably.
Yes, it has, and a couple of the precincts in particular, Coates probably spelled doom for Joyce Glace's the city council bid. Only 71 votes there. Glace falls to sixth place right now with 995 votes. Seventh place right now, city council Reverend Thomas Motley, 697 votes. So again, we're halfway through, more or less, technically halfway through the wards, more or less halfway through the total voters participating in Danville. And again, the one situation that has not changed. Three incumbents are safe. They're going to go back on council unless there are some very unusual numbers in some of the other precincts. The polls suggest, though, that the three incumbents are safe on city council. And, again, James Buckner, the newcomer that has given himself a bit of a cushion with these latest vote totals. 1,313 votes for James Buckner. Just out of the running right now, Dawn Witter, 1,094, and then you go back about 99 votes to Joyce Glace. So we're seeing a little bit of clarity emerge in the Danville City Council race. Not much clarity in the third and final spot in the school board. We're going to take a quick break and come back and hopefully have a few more sets of numbers here. We're about halfway done from City Council chambers. Our coverage tonight on WBTM is brought to you by Wilkins & Company Realtors. Welcome back to Danville City Council chambers, everyone. Chuck Vipperman and Jack Garrett giving you live results on the returns tonight, the City Council and School Board election. Also simulcasting with our friends at River City TV. I have a suit and tie on tonight, folks. We must be on TV tonight, not radio. Good evening again, and again, we're halfway through. And Jack, one thing I noticed, the only time I get a chance to take my headphones off is when we take a quick commercial break to take a sip of water. It's quiet as a mouse in here, buddy.
Not much activity.
It's a lot of drama, and why not? Right now, again, the biggest drama is in the school board race, where there are three candidates duking it out for that third and final spot on the Danville School Board. Again, Stephen Gould is going to lead the field in a big way here, 1,839 votes at last check. Philip Campbell, an incumbent, not a newcomer. Gould is a newcomer. The incumbent Campbell, second place right now, 1,442 votes. After that, it's a dogfight. That third and final spot right now is occupied by Sharon Dones, 1,156 votes. 1,145 votes for Henry Walker. Right now, 11 votes are separating the final transfer spot in the school board race. And Reverend George Wilson, he's in fifth place, but he's very much in the running. 1,030 votes. The only incumbent right now who is would not stand to be reelected as the votes total stand now. But again, he is only 153 votes out of the running as we speak. That number will almost certainly change. City council race, kind of what we forecast earlier, the three incumbents, unless you have that big issue, that big knockout punch issue you can deliver against an incumbent, they're usually very hard to knock off. And right now the three incumbents are carrying the race in the 2014 Danville City Council election. Leading vote getter is John Gilstrap by a significant margin, 1,893 votes so far for Gilstrap. 1,655 for second place, Alonzo Jones. 1,645 for third place, Dr. Gary Miller. Those are your 3 city council incumbents. They most certainly look like they will be returning. Now, beyond that is when it gets interesting for council, but it is a little clearer than it was just a few moments ago. After the last 3 precincts pointed in, we have James Buckner in the 4th spot with 1,313 votes. After that, Dawn Witter, 1,094 votes, so about a 219 vote separation there between 4th and 5th place. And again, the 4th spot gets on Danville City Council. After that, you have Joyce Glaze with 995 votes, about 1,000 votes back from Witter to Glaze. 7th place right now, Reverend Thomas Motley, 697 votes. So the trends that we had earlier continuing on the city council side, except just a little bit of clarity emerging for that 4th and final spot. James Buckner now with a bit of a cushion, 1,313 votes for him as opposed to 1,094 for Dawn Witter. Right now, that transfer spot, so to speak, is where the drama is on the Danville City Council side. Now, we do still have some pretty significantly sized precincts that have yet to vote in. Schoolfield School with its 2,100 voters. Park Avenue with 2,273 voters is still out at this point. Bonner School, 2,547, still out at this point. American Legion Post 325, 2,400 registered voters. They have yet to phone in. So basically, we have 4 of the 6 largest precincts, Jack, that have yet to phone in. And if history tells us anything, when you get precincts of that size and you have some close numbers like this, anything can happen. And boy, I wouldn't give a nickel to try to bet on the school board right now for that last transfer spot, because it is about as tight as it's going to get, my friend.
I would think Buckner would poll well in those larger precincts that are still outstanding.
I would think you're right, and right now the trends are certainly suggesting he's going to get that last spot on City Council. Again, we'll wait and see what the numbers are, but I agree with you. I think he's going to show very well at Bonner, at American Legion Post 325, Schoolfield, Park Avenue. Again, traditionally, those are also precincts where you usually have some pretty heavy voter participation as well. They usually have very good turnout relative to the rest of the wards in the city. So I think we're going to get some big vote totals from those 4. And like you say, everything suggests Buckner's going to poll fairly well there. If that's the case, then we won't have much drama in the city council election. We're going to have drama in the school board race, though, and again, it was it's a pleasant surprise. Again, the first couple of elected school board opportunities we had here as Danville voters, there was no drama. 3 running for 3 one year, 4 running for 4 the following year. Got to where we weren't even doing the totals on the air because we knew exactly who was going to win. We did have a contested race last time around, and we have a very much contested race this time around. 5 candidates running for 3 seats. And, of course, right now, a newcomer, Stephen Gould, is showing the way with 1,839 votes. After that, Philip Campbell, 1,442. And right now, third place on the school board, Sharon Jones, 1,156 votes. She has an 11-vote cushion over fourth place, Henry Walker, 1,145 votes. And then you go back 115 votes, still very much in the running for Reverend George Wilson. Again, we are halfway through here. 9 precincts out of 18 have phoned in. We mentioned 4 of the bigger ones that have phoned in. Of course, one of the smaller ones, the Central Absentee District, basically where they count up the absentee votes, that will be phoned in as well. And from a numerical standpoint, we're only talking about a few dozen votes there. So again, the raw numbers from the absentees will not be a major player. We do still have Langston out, one of the smaller precincts. Again, we have a mishmash, but there are 4 very, very, very large precincts that are still out in this councilmanic and school board election. And when we get those totals in, it's going to go a long ways to determining who's in and who's not. And again, I think the phrase is going to offer some clarity as to the way this race is going to end this evening. Again, 7 candidates running for 4 seats on Danville City Council, 5 candidates running for 3 seats on the Danville School Board. You're listening to election coverage on WBTM Danville, Virginia. I'm Chuck Vipperman. Jack Garrett is alongside, and we are in City Council chambers getting ready for I guess we can call it the second half of returns here. We mentioned, as Gerald Gibson, Circuit Court Clerk, mentioned in the last report. We've been having some technical issues in terms of obtaining the numbers here tonight at Election Central, and of course, just bear with us. This might take a little bit longer than it has in previous council election years. We're up to the task, though. I feel like I'm running a Senate filibuster right now. I'm going to do a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington here in a second and start reading from the phone book or whatever, but don't think it'll come to that. We'll have a little bit more clarity here shortly, Jack. And as we look at the and again, school board's really the where the big drama is right now. We've referenced it earlier. Some major changes recently for the entire Danville public school system. We have a brand new superintendent. We have 3 fewer elementary schools than we did a year ago. We have a middle school that's now an elementary school. And lots of changes, and of course that meant lots of interest in this year's Danville school board race. Gerald Gibson comes up to the podium. He has papers. That means numbers. We'll give it to Gerald.
3 additional wards reporting, Chuck. Ward number 1, Dole Thomas Park, Buckner 22, Gilstrap 55, Glaze 80, Jones 79, Miller 42, Motley 65, Whittle 4, Witter 20, for school board, Campbell 85, Downs 48, Gould 41, Walker 20, Wilson 56, 2 write-ins for city council and 2 for school board. Ward number 16, Park Avenue School, Buckner 248, Gilstrap 279, Glaze 124, Jones 206, Miller 282, Motley 98, Whittle 35, Witter 193, for school board, Campbell 185, Downs 209, Gould 297, Walker 193, Wilson 145, write-ins for council 3, school board 2. Ward number 2, Swanson Studio, Buckner 76, Gilstrap 136, Glaze 57, Jones 109, Miller 131, Motley 42, Whittle 20, Witter 119, Campbell for school board 87, Downs 76, Gould 146, Walker 93, Wilson 66, 2 write-ins for council and 2 for school board. Cumulative totals, Buckner 1659, Gilstrap 2363, Glaze 1256, Jones 2049, Miller 2100, Motley 902, Whittle 393, Witter 1426, for school board, Campbell 1799, Downs 1489, Gould 2323, Walker 1451, Wilson 1297.
Okay, Gerald, and we are now even further through 2/3 of the way through now, unofficially, 12 of the 18 precincts having reported, and the clarity continues to emerge in the city council race, and the gap is widened, but not by much in the school board race. Let's start our reset here with the Danville School Board, a very close race for the transfer spot, but leading the ticket right now by a wide margin. Stephen Gould, the newcomer, 2,323 votes. Second place right now, an incumbent, Philip Campbell, with 1,799 votes. Then we get to the third and final spot on the school board, and that's where it remains interesting. Still Sharon Downs in that third spot with 1,489 votes. Fourth place, just out of the running now, but only 38 votes out of the transfer spot, is Henry Walker. So 38 votes right now, separating the all-important third from fourth spot in the school board race. Still with an outside chance, but he'll have to pick it up in the final 6 precincts. Reverend George Wilson, 1,297 votes. He is not quite 200 votes out of the running right now, with 6 of the precincts having yet to vote in. For city council, again, the incumbents are leading the way. John Gilstrap, 2,363 votes. Gary Miller, 2,100. Alonzo Jones, 2,049. Right now, the fourth spot is James Buckner. He is widening his lead just a little bit for that fourth spot. 1,659 votes for the newcomer. Right now, 233 votes out of the running, Dawn Witter with 1,426 votes. Again, a few good-sized precincts are left to phone in here, but right now Buckner holds the final transfer spot in the council race. Dawn Witter is behind him at 1,426 votes. Sixth place, Joyce Glace, 1,256 votes. Last place among those that are active candidates, Thomas Motley, 902. So, again, after those three, Jack, the trends continue. The incumbents are still safe. Buckner is still polling fairly well and is poised to be on council. Again, we'll wait for the final totals. School board, though, that final spot is still mathematically too close to call.
So we've heard from 12 of 18 precincts now?
That is the case, and one of the precincts out, again, is the Central Absentee Voter Election District, which, again, very small. We're only talking about a few dozen absentee votes that had to be tallied in advance, or I shouldn't say tallied. They collect the absentee votes, then they actually count them after the polls close. That's the way
yet to
that
hear
works.
from Bonner and American Legion Post, both of which have about 2,500 registered voters.
That's a couple of big precincts still out. And again, when you look at the council race, again, we're getting the clarity right now. It would take Dawn Witter would have to poll quite well in not just one but both of those precincts to get on city council. Again, the three incumbents are on. It's going to be John Gilstrap, Alonzo Jones, and Dr. Gary Miller. The only question now is who will be the fourth place finisher, the last to get on council. Right now in that race, James Buckner has a slight edge over Dawn Witter. 1,659 votes for Buckner, 1,426 for Witter. As I look at the numbers, Jack, Buckner's polled fairly consistently across the board in the precincts that we look at in terms of being the bellwether precincts for determining winners here in Danville. Seeing pretty solid vote totals along the way. Dawn Witter's had a very solid vote total at Swanson Studios. She polled 193 votes there. But beyond that,
that's her home precinct.
Yeah, exactly. That's the home precinct, and she carried it. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But in that regard, as we look at what's out there, again, those are precincts I'm thinking James Buckner will poll fairly well in. I'm not going to call it now because I'm not mathematically safe with calling it, but right now James Buckner is in the fourth spot, and don't want to say comfortable, but about as comfortable as you can be and not be automatic. But 1,659 votes. We're looking right now at a 236 vote margin. Certainly not undoable. It can be done, but based upon what's out and the way the trends are going right now, it'll be difficult. Now, the school board race, don't ask me. I ain't going to guess on this. Sharon Dones, 1,489 votes, has the last spot right now. 38 votes behind her. Henry Walker, 1,451 votes, and just under 1,300 for George Wilson. Still in the running, but time is running out. We'll go get some more numbers here in just a moment. We're going to catch our breath, drink some water, and let you hear from our sponsors tonight on WBTM, Wilkins & Company Realtors, making tonight's coverage of City Council and School Board elections possible. And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to City Council Chambers. I'm Chuck Vipperman alongside Jack Garrett, broadcasting, of course, live on WBTM, and a first for us this year, broadcasting live on River City Television. Hello, world of local TV. Mark Aaron and his guys setting up tonight's simulcast. We thank them for working with us. We're having a good time here broadcasting the returns. And, again, just to do a quick reset here, We have drama. We have drama, particularly on the school board side of the equation, and we'll go ahead and get those totals here for you in just a second. Right now, that's where the drama is as we speak. Leading the ticket, though, big gap here. Stephen Gould, 2,323 votes at this juncture. Philip Campbell, an incumbent, also will return to the school board, presumably, 1,799 votes. Right now, that third and final spot on the Danville School Board is very much up in the air. Sharon Dones, 1,489 votes. Henry Walker, just out of the running right now, 1,451 votes for Walker. So again, we were talking about all of a 38-vote difference between the third and final spot on the school board and the fourth spot just off the school board. Fifth place still in striking distance. One of the incumbents, George Wilson, 1,297 votes. For City Council, as expected, the incumbents are polling very well. They will all be reelected to City Council. Leading vote getter right now is John Gilstrand, 2,363 votes. 2,100 votes exactly for Vice Mayor Dr. Gary Miller, and third place right now to Alonzo Jones, another of the incumbents, 2,049 votes. Again, the drama in council is for the final spot, but it's becoming less and less dramatic the more wards we get to phone in. Again, we have got 12 in, 6 more to go here in Danville. And the fourth and final spot on council goes right now to James Buckner, 1,659 votes. 233 votes back of him is fifth place right now, Dawn Witter, 1,426 votes for Witter. Then you go back another couple thousand, not quite, a couple hundred rather, to Joyce Glace running in sixth place right now, 1,256. Again, with what we have out in terms of the precincts, I don't think it's going to be a possibility that Joyce Glace will be able to make a run and overcome Buckner for the final spot. And, of course, Thomas Motley running seventh right now, 902 votes. And Madison Whittle's name on the ballot, of course, but he withdrew from the race a few weeks back. He's picked up 393 votes, but again, the ballots had already been printed, so or set up, and so his name was going to be on there regardless.
Probably would have been a contender had he stayed in the race.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting to try to handicap that, wouldn't it, to see how the votes would have fallen or not fallen had Madison Whittle's candidacy gone through to the very end. It'll be.
I think he certainly would have been a contender.
Sure.
Apparently there were some residency problems there, too.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, and again, hindsight being what it is, you never know. Some of the places that the one newcomer right now, James Buckner, is polling well. We can, I think, safely assume that Madison Whittle would have probably had his strongest performances in many of those precincts. And then you get to the whole issue of short ticket voting. And that, of course, practice, Danville is not unique in that regard. Where you have the opportunity to vote for 4 candidates for council, but you only vote for 1 or 2.
Well, their messages were similar, and they resonated with the conservative business vote.
Mm-hmm.
And those folks traditionally vote.
Sure, exactly. We get very good turnout in that regard. And, of course, it would be interesting to see if Madison Whittle had carried his candidacy all the way through, how that would impact the totals tonight. But right now, again, as we sort of expected, the 3 incumbents are going to be reelected to City Council. And right now, the only question is in that final spot, James Buckner, again, right now, 1,659 votes, 1,426 for Dawn Witter. Again, that is a 233 vote difference as we speak right now. And we're getting some other numbers in. Hopefully, we'll have some fresh stuff in a couple of minutes.
Well, Sharon Dones has done very well.
Yes.
And I'd correct me if you think I'm wrong, but she did not run a very high-profile campaign, at least media-wise. We didn't hear much from her. I've seen her supporters out, so apparently she did a lot of door-to-door campaigning as well.
Clearly, and it's interesting to see. It's tempting to go by the yard sign paradigm. That is to say, who's got the biggest and best, most prominent road signs is the one that's campaigning the hardest. It's a misnomer. Anybody can put up yard signs, but relative to the other candidates, I did not see as many of her signs up around in the area. So yeah, I'm don't want to say I'm surprised, but yeah, obviously a strong base of support. And again, we have energizing issues in the school board race that are getting people interested in voting. Maybe less so the case in the city council election, but in the school board race, yeah, there's a lot of issues you can really sink your teeth into, and clearly a couple of the candidates were able to get the votes out, again, as evidenced by the fact a newcomer is dusting the field in the school board race.
And if we have these new faces on school board, it'll be interesting to see if the dynamics change.
Oh, they'll definitely change, no doubt about it. Now, how will be to be determined, but yeah, and really it will be a continuing of the transition we're already underway with a new superintendent, with reorganization plans, lots of new central office administrators. When Sue Davis and Andy Terrell retired at the end of last year, I mean, you're talking cumulatively 65 years or so of experience in the Danville school system, just with those two, to say nothing of the other teachers and other staffers that retired. Yeah, and of course, closing 3 elementary schools in the process as part of a sort of a retraction plan. Yeah, I mean, these are major transitional times for the entire Danville school system, and I guess it's only fitting that the school board is going to reflect that in some way. We knew coming in tonight we would have at least one new member of the Danville school board, and right now we could very easily have 2. Again, Stephen Gould certainly appears to be safe, 2,323 votes. The drama in the school board race is for the 3rd spot. Philip Campbell is 2nd, an incumbent, should be reelected. 3rd spot, Sharon Dones, 1,489 votes. Just behind her, another newcomer, Henry Walker, 1,451. The second and final incumbent in the school board race, Reverend George Wilson, 1,297 votes. And right now he obviously has some work to do to be reelected. Not beyond the realm of possibility, but right now it looks like we're going to have 2 new members of the Danville School Board. Yeah, it's a 7-member panel. 2 out of 7. If you do that, you're batting 286. That's 28.6%. But that's significant. We've seen some split votes in the school board, and in particular, a lot of the process for drawing up the budget. Again, with the schools, it's all about determining that budget. Where are your spending priorities? And it will be interesting to see the dynamics, which by definition will certainly change with at least 1, possibly 2 more members of the Danville School Board. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, you're right. It's going to change. And again, I guess it's part and parcel. We have a school system very much in transition. We will have a school board in transition.
And there were members on the existing board that had some questions,
Sure.
some serious questions about the massive reorganizational plan that has been in place since the new superintendent took over. So we'll see just what changes might be in store. And
it's interesting. Anytime a new superintendent takes over, particularly one, of course, Dr. Sue Davis was promoted from within the school system. Anytime you have someone from outside the school system, the city that is, that comes in, there's going to be a feeling out period, honeymoon, if you want to call it that. Some people would not call it a honeymoon, depending upon how things go. But necessarily you're going to have changes. You're going to have just a whole different set of dynamics. And now we're going to add at least 1, possibly 2 new members to the Danville School Board, their first meeting in July. Now, at that point, they will have, of course, next year's budget in place. That will be determined. But many, many more issues remain. We mentioned the discipline issues, in particular at Bonner, which have garnered lots of attention in the past several months. That's going to be a big issue, and of course, I mean, just the continuing process. A reorganizational plan is in place, but it's very different than the one Dr. Newsom, the superintendent, had originally proposed. Some pressure from school board members and, quite frankly, from some city council members over proposals for additional central office personnel. That's been rerouted. Teachers are going to get a 2% raise, up to a 1% bonus in addition for those that are eligible. And so, lots of things going on in the school board. I never, when we started doing elected school boards 8 years ago, the way the low-key nature of the first couple of elections, I never thought we would have a broadcast here where we'd be talking more about the school board than city council. But that's the case tonight. But it owes not so much to the council race, but just to how interesting things have gotten on the Danville School Board. Anytime you have transition, anytime you have change, you're going to garner interest, for better or for worse. And certainly the school board has garnered lots of interest this evening. Right now we have Circuit Court Clerk Gerald Gibson back at the microphone with the latest totals. Gerald?
Chuck, we're going in threes tonight. Ward number 9, Glenwood Recreation. Buckner 90, Gilstrap 108, Glaze 81, Jones 104, Miller 96, Motley 66, Whittle 17, Witter 56, School Board Campbell 107, Dones 78, Gould 94, Walker 58, Wilson 76. Ward 13, Grove Park, Buckner 196, Gilstrap 317, Glaze 159, Jones 280, Miller 278, Motley 105, Whittle 41, Witter 206, School Board Campbell 244, Dones 189, Gould 319, Walker 197, Wilson 160. 8 write-ins for school board, 0 for council. Central absentee voting, Buckner 63, Gilstrap 112, Glaze 57, Jones 98, Miller 112, Motley 46, Whittle 16, Witter 54, for school board, Campbell 81, Dones 53, Gould 111, Walker 70, Wilson 65, 1 vote write-in for council and 2 for school board. Cumulative totals, Buckner 2,008, Gilstrap 2,900, Glaze 1553, Jones 2531, Miller 2586, Motley 1119, Whittle 467, Witter 1742. School Board, Campbell 2231, Dones 1809, Gould 2847, Walker 1776, Wilson 1598.
Okay, so like you say, we are going in threes tonight, Gerald. That's 15 out of 18 having phoned in right now. And again, the clarity continues in the city council race. The uncertainty continues in the school board race. Here's where we are with our reset. We're going to start with the school board because that's where the excitement is here tonight in Danville. Leading vote getter easily right now, Stephen Gould, 2,847 votes. After him, second place, an incumbent, Philip Campbell, 2,231. The interesting spot, the third and final spot on the Danville school board. Sharon Dones has that right now, 1,809 votes. 1,776 votes, 33 votes back is Henry Walker. And in fourth place right now, you go back to 1,598 votes, that's George Wilson. Right now, he is over 200 votes behind Sharon Dones for the third spot, so it is very much looking like George Wilson will not be reelected to the school board, and we will have not one but 2 newcomers on the 7-member panel in their first meeting in July. Things clearing up a little bit in the council race. 3 incumbents carrying the field with room to spare, and even 2,900 votes right now for John Gilstrap. Second place, 2,586 votes for Gary Miller, 2,531 for Alonzo Jones. Those are the 3 incumbents. They are going to be reelected. The fourth spot is becoming a little bit more secure for James Buckner. 2,008 votes right now for Buckner with only 3 of the precincts out. You go back 266 votes to Dawn Witter, polling 5th right now, 1,742 votes. So we're getting a bit of a separation there between 4th place Buckner and 5th place Dawn Witter. After that, Joyce Glaze is polling 6th right now at 1,553 votes. And 7th place is Thomas Motley, 1,119 votes. So long story short, City Council, we're going to have 3 incumbents and a newcomer. It's looking like James Buckner right now. And on the school board, it's looking more and more like we're going to have not 1, but 2 newcomers that'll be on the panel. We're going to take a brief break, get a sip of water, and take off the headphones for about 30 seconds while you hear from our sponsor tonight here on WBTM. Our coverage tonight is brought to you by Wilkins & Company Realtors. Welcome back to City Council Chambers, everyone. We are most of the way through the returns tonight. 15 of the 18 precincts have reported in, and of course we're getting the clarity that we have lacked so far in the city council race. The one thing that was clear from very early on is that the three incumbents were most certainly going to be reelected. That's the case. Right now carrying the ticket is John Gilstrap with 2,900 votes. Second place, Dr. Gary Miller, 2,586 votes. And third place, Alonzo Jones, 2,531. Right now, the fourth spot is going to James Buckner. That's the last spot on council. He has 2,008 votes. And then after that, you have to go back a couple hundred, 266 votes exactly to get to Don Witter, 1,742. With only three precincts out, 266 votes is going to be very, very difficult to make up. It's looking like Buckner's going to be on city council for sure. School board is where the drama is. We have a newcomer that's dusting the field, though. Stephen Gould, 2,847 votes. Far and away the leading vote getter in the Danville school board race. Right now, second place is one of the incumbents, Philip Campbell, 2,231 votes. Third place right now, the last spot on the school board, will go to Sharon Dones if she can hold a very, very, very narrow lead. 1,809 votes for Sharon Dones. 1,776 votes for Henry Walker. So a whopping 33 votes are separating the final two competitors running for the final spot in the Danville School Board. Reverend George Wilson still technically with a shot, but it's going to be very difficult to make up 200 votes with only three precincts out. He has 1,598 votes. So right now we are looking at certainly James Buckner and the three incumbents being elected to city council. Again, three wards are out. We'll wait for the numbers here, but the trend certainly suggests that's not going to change. The big drama as we wait for the final three totals here is at the school board level. Sharon Dones with a 33-vote lead over Henry Walker. And I'm Chuck Vipperman along with Jack Garrett. We're broadcasting on WBTM tonight, but also on River City TV, thanks to Mark Aaron and for all the folks down the hall here who are making our simulcast possible tonight. I had to wear a suit and tie, and I'm having to look at a camera every so often. Usually I'm very comfortable, Jack, with burying my head down and looking because it's radio. Well, tonight is radio and television, so again, and you've done a little TV before, so this is old hat to you, I know.
Surprised that Reverend Wilson isn't polling stronger tonight, given the fact that he chairs the school board and has been, very visible in the community.
Very active, yes. That is surprising, I have to admit. But again, I think it owes itself as much to Reverend Wilson, not so much to Reverend Wilson, but just the whole change mentality that we've been talking about since the get-go here with the school board. This entire school system is in transition, and so I guess it's only fitting that we're apparently going to have two newcomers on the school board. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the chairman, Wilson's been there for multiple terms. He's very visible. He has weighed in on many of the big transitional issues that we have dealt with in the school system for the past few years. If you had to pick an incumbent that would not get on, it would be hard to choose. Philip Campbell and George Wilson. Obviously, Campbell is polling very well, second place right now. But yeah, Reverend George Wilson right now with 1,598 votes, more than 200 votes right now out of the running, and with only three precincts left to phone in, you have to think 200 votes is going to be next to impossible to make up. Not impossible, but next to impossible. And again, we transcribe that to the city council race. Again, the gap that we're looking at right now is also 200 votes. Actually, it is 266 votes. That is the difference between fourth place right now, James Buckner, and fifth place, Dawn Witter. Those are the two newcomers that are battling it out for the fourth and final spot on Danville City Council. I always say fourth and final spot. They'll get one vote just like everyone else, so it doesn't matter who finishes first or fourth. They all have exactly one vote on council when the new council is seated at the 1st of July.
Well, this is an incredible showing for Stephen Gould. I mean, he's overall the second top vote getter to this point among all the candidates.
Which is unusual because, generally speaking, the spread between the total number of votes cast for city council and school board, usually about a 20-25% difference.
Absolutely.
We're not getting much different totals, so that just underscores how many people were taking the school board election very, very seriously this evening.
I see Gerald again.
That means we'll pull up mic number 3 and invite Gerald Gibson to read us some numbers.
Chuck, this should be the wrap-up. Ward number 6, Stonewall. For City Council, Buckner 27, Gilstrap 51, Glaze 119, Jones 100, Miller 71, Motley 67, Whittle number 7 votes, Witter 21, for School Board Campbell 110, Dones 49, Gould 66, Walker 33, Wilson 76. No write-ins for council or school board for Ward 6. Ward number 3, Langston, Buckner 29, Gilstrap 84, Glaze 139, Jones 130, Miller 89, Motley 91, Whittle 10, Witter 32, for School Board Campbell 131, Downs 129, Gould 41, Walker 21, Wilson 108, no write-ins. Ward number 12, American Legion, Buckner 226, Gilstrap 373, Glaze 228, Jones 328, Miller 322, Motley 170, Whittle 36, Witter 168, for School Board Campbell 289, Dones 229, Gould 316, Walker 231, Wilson 221, 4 write-ins for City Council and 3 for School Board. The final totals: Buckner 2290, Gilstrap 3408, Glaze 2039, Jones 3089, Miller 3068, Motley 1447, Whittle 520, Witter 1963. For School Board, Campbell 2761, Dones 2216, Gould 3270, Walker 2061, and Wilson 2003.
Okay, and thanks a lot to Gerald Gibson once again for his help in reading us the numbers. And the final votes are in, and real quickly, the last bit of drama we had heading into this evening, or into the final vote totals, was the Danville School Board, and it's going to be Sharon Dones that gets on. 2,216 votes for Sharon Dones, 2,061 for Henry Walker. So Dones will get on the school board, and the margin a little bit wider than it had been most of the evening, about 155 vote victory for Sharon Dones. We knew going in tonight we were going to have one newcomer on Danville City Council, and that newcomer is now sitting to our left. Congratulations, James Buckner, 2,290 votes tonight, about a 300 vote spread for the final spot. Welcome to City Council, and give us an inkling of what the past couple of days have been like.
Pure madness, man. We've knocked on a lot of doors, met a lot of nice people, made a lot of friends here, and eager to serve, man. Eager to serve.
You were one of the first candidates to file in the race. Not the first, I don't think, but one of the first. You started off very early. You have been very active. And one thing Jack and I were talking about is the fact that, yeah, you embraced the new social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff, but you pounded the pavement too, obviously.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Tell us about that process. Again, you got to do both, don't you?
You got to do both, man. If anybody writes out social media, they're signing their own death certificate, really, because that helped, get the message out, and get the message out quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Your message to voters this year, highlighting your business experience. Again, obviously that resonated with a lot of voters in terms of getting that business sense to City Council. I'm guessing that was the winning message for you, probably.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
I'm glad I can bring it.
Give us an idea. Again, next couple of months you'll undergo some orientation, getting ready for council. But quite frankly, you've been sitting in this chair right behind me in the City Council meetings for the past 6 months. Give us your sense of what you've been able to learn just through osmosis or whatever.
A lot. I don't even know where to begin. I don't feel like I could effectively do the job and not know the job. So that's why I've been here, learning the job and trying to get my feet wet, I guess you could say, and learn exactly what I need to do. The best thing I can do right now is just listen. So.
Good point. And you, one of the candidates that really embraced the River District concept. Of course, you have interest in that. But again, overarching economics. We have been in a funk economically for a generation now. I mean, it's really snuck up on us. Not only did tobaccos and textiles decline, they declined at the same time.
Right.
That took a lot of wind out of our sails, but we are transitioning, and I know the whole economic angle was what you were about from the beginning.
Right, absolutely. We got to do what we can do to bring jobs and keep jobs, and you know, if I told you I knew all the answers to how to do it, I'd be lying. So
I wouldn't believe you anyway. James, finally, just a note on joining this council again. You'll be the one newcomer, as it turns out, on council. You have had the opportunity, though, to meet the incumbents, not only those that were on the ballot today, but those who will still have 2 years left on their terms. You're very close to Lee Vogler, of course. Yeah, you'll have to be oriented, but you know these folks for the most part. That shouldn't be an issue.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm excited and ready to work with these guys.
All right, James
Great
Buckner, far and away the best performance among the newcomers, 2,290 votes tonight. Yeah, the Gilstrap, Jones, and Miller got more votes than you, but come July 1st, y'all all have exactly one vote sitting in one of these chairs here.
Wonderful.
Congratulations
Wonderful.
and welcome to City Council.
After parties at Delano's on Main Street. Free plug.
That's a free River District plug, too.
That's right. Come join us.
James Buckner, the first newcomer on City Council, the only newcomer in this year's election. We welcome him to council, and he will take the oath of office along with some of the other incumbents. July 1st, one of those incumbents has settled in right next to me, and he knows a little something about City Council. Alonzo Jones, welcome, and you never assume anything. You never, but you had to figure, hopefully things will go well. Things went well today.
Things went well, Chuck. First of all, good evening. I just want to thank everybody who went out and voted, and it's just a great pleasure. But let me pause, if I can,
Sure,
Chuck,
do it.
and say thank you to Miss Rebecca Bolton. I served on the school board with Miss Bolton, and those know she's not returning all her years of service. Thank you, Miss Bolton. Also want to say to my friend Adam Tomer, served with him on City Council, and I also want to thank Reverend Wilson for all his years of service, and congratulations to both James Buckner and Miss Sharon Dones for, I don't know what I want to call it. But
very, very solid campaigns, and of course we had a newcomer that paced the field in the school board, Stephen Gould, as well. So newcomers really did make a difference this evening. We no longer call you a newcomer. You're a veteran on City Council. Give us a sense of running for re-election this time. Obviously, you're hearing similar concerns from the voters that you've heard for the past few years. What was different about 2014 as opposed to 2010?
Well, let me also thank Stephen, because Stephen
Sure.
Gould and I, we spent a lot of time talking and celebrating, but I'm glad you brought that forward. What happened was, when we were out polling today, there were some people that, and I had wonderful people working the polls, but they kind of got disturbed when they would approach a car and said, I asked for your vote for Alonzo Jones. And so there was one individual who said, I plan not voting for any of the current council members. And that did not upset me, but I wanted to talk to that individual to find out, if elected, what can I do different? And his major concern was in reference to our utilities. And Chuck, you know I've already stated, and I've been on record stating that I'm against any utility increase, and I stand by that. So I just want the citizens to know, when you hear that, you have the heart of the citizens, and I understand what they're going through. So I just want to thank again everyone who voted for me, everybody who supported me. Thank you all as well.
Mentioned the utilities. That's going to be one of the bigger issues that that the new council is going to have to deal with, and obviously we need that. That's going to be big. Yeah, a lot of the debates this year in the council race sounded like not debates we've had before, debates we need to have, but there was no real big new overriding issue. A lot of, particularly River District development, we are really starting now to see the fruits of that development. I know you've been a big proponent of that from the get-go. Clearly, voters agreed. I'm guessing you got quite a bit of feedback on that.
Oh, correct. We really did in regards to River District. The other thing, Chuck, if I can just go off script.
You've done that twice already.
So it's okay to do it again. One of the things that was concerned was utilities. And as you stated, there was a lot of conversations in reference to the utilities. But I would like to share with those who didn't win tonight, those persons who run, that we have openings on the Utilities Commission. And I think that's where your voice, that's where you have a very strong voice set on the Utilities Commission. So I'd like to encourage those people to do that. But the downtown revitalization is going well. There's great things happening in Danville, Virginia. Citizens are doing fantastic. And I'm just excited about what's happening in Danville. And that's why I chose. Come July the 1st, I will be serving 10 years. 6 years on the school board, 4 years on city council of service I've given to our community. And I'm proud of that because I do love the city of Danville. I love where Danville is going. Danville is moving forward. Exciting things are to come. And I'm just glad that the citizens decided to elect me again.
You seem slightly excited about things.
Slightly. I've been hanging out with you and this young man in the morning on WBTM.
Oh, no. How can you be excited after listening to Alonzo, thank you so much. And again, that enthusiastic personality, again, you have to feel comfortable with the way that's resonated with voters. In these times, we need a little optimism.
We definitely do. People are going through so much, and I think the word that we need to exemplify is love, love, love.
Alonzo, always a pleasure, buddy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you in one of the chairs here in a few weeks, and if you're lucky, you'll get to draw the one closest to me again. Thank you, Alonzo Jones. And right now, we will shift microphones, quite literally, shift headphones and microphones, and we will go to the leading vote getter tonight. 3,408 votes for now two-term congressman. Listen to me. I just gave you a promotion. You don't want that job, probably. John Gilstrap, reelected to the Danville City Council tonight. John, first off, congratulations. You carried the ticket today in terms of vote totals. Clearly, voters liked the message, and the message kind of a continuation of 4 years ago when you were first elected. Very positive, very straightforward.
Well, I am so thankful for everybody that voted, regardless of who they voted for. I just appreciate people voting today. But also, I really appreciate those that voted for me also. that helps. And you know, I just try to be honest. The point, I've changed a lot in 4 years and learned a lot in 4 years. And I'm sure I'll continue to grow. And I am so excited about continuing the progress. As Alonzo indicated, we'll continue the progress of developing this city to excellent times, not just better, but we got excellent times. We got some things that we hope is going to be game changers for the city, and hopefully we'll be able to make some announcements soon.
Yeah, we're crossing our fingers on that, and hope for some good news. But in terms of some of the shorter term issues, utilities are going to be a big part of the debate very soon here. Again, there are no easy answers on that, and I'm going to guess, particularly from the older segment of the population, as you went out and campaigned, you got a lot of feedback on utilities in general, electric rates in particular. Again, that's part and parcel of being a council member.
Well, and we did, and the Utility Commission has recommended a rate increase, but it has not been approved by council. And there will be some strong debates there, but they are other options. And I think we should look at those other options, and if at all possible, we should not increase any utility rates for any citizens. And I know that at least 20% of our customers don't even live in the city. But we all got to pay bills.
And finally, John, just a word on these last 4 years. You said you've grown over the last 4 years, and obviously the approach in your campaign this year did not change. You were still candidate Gilstrap from 4 years ago, as opposed to incumbent Gilstrap this time around. We heard the same positive message. Clearly, it resonated with voters to the tune of 3,408 votes. Are we getting a better little sense of optimism here in the city?
Well, I think we are. I think we're getting a sense of optimism, and I think we sort of turned that corner. And I feel really good about our city right now, and I feel really good about the city council and our working relationship. And I feel that the citizens, and this is important for the citizens, that their attitudes need to be changed about the city, and we all need to be positive about our city, not only growing but resolving some of our problems, especially as it relates to blight, unemployment, poverty, education.
Good points, one and all. John, congratulations.
Positive always.
And positive to the tune of 3,408 votes. I'm positive you finished first today.
And I think I've shifted to the right a little bit in 4 years.
No. One of the questions I asked of a congressman years ago, based upon his stance on an issue now as opposed to 12 years ago, does this mean you're getting more conservative as you get older? He said, don't we all?
That's right, we all. Chuck, thank you.
John
Appreciate
Gilstrap, congratulations. Welcome back to Danville City Council. John Gilstrap, the leading vote getter today, 3,408 votes for John Gilstrap. Again, 3 incumbents, 1 newcomer will make up the winners today in the Danville City Council elections. We've talked to 2 of the incumbents and 2 of the incumbents and 1 of the newcomers. We will now talk to the 3rd incumbent, Vice Mayor Dr. Gary Miller. Congratulations. Welcome back to council for 4 years. And give us a sense of what this campaign was like this time around as opposed to, say, 4 years ago.
I think people are more optimistic about the city. I think we've done some good things in the last 4 years, and I think it's starting to bear fruit. I think the overall attitude, people are talking positive about Danville. They're not hanging their heads when people from outside Danville talk to them. So I think we're on a roll. I think things are definitely getting better.
Clearly, when the 3 incumbents carry the field, as was the case today, people are at the very least pleased with, for the most part at least, with the way things have been going from a council standpoint. You have been a very strong proponent of the River District project from the get-go, back when before it was cool, I guess, to support the River District. And there has to be an immense sense of pride as you look downtown and see what's happened structurally and, quite frankly, culturally from this investment.
Exactly. When we first started this, there was opposition on council. People saying, we're wasting money. We've tried this before. It failed. And indeed it had, but I felt this time, the stars were aligned and it's working. And I was just amazed last week as I was downtown at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. There were 40 or 50 people downtown mingling around the fountain with their kids. I mean, it's coming back. People are starting to come back downtown, and what's good for downtown is good for the whole city. You don't do it just to attract people to the downtown. When people come into Danville for whatever reason, they come downtown, they go out and go to other stores and other business and movies and restaurants. So it attracts people. You got to get them here. You got to have an attraction to get them here.
In addition to some of the, traditional issues, jobs, education, economic development, etc., I'll ask you again about the city's actions in reference to the reaction to the coal ash spill, something you've been very vocal, very upfront about. We're about to presumably hire a private counsel. You've been, of the 9 council members, the most vocal in making the pledge to hold Duke Energy's feet to the fire for the next several months, next several years. Now, of course, you'll have 4 more years on city council to do that, but again, that was obviously a message that resonated with voters as well. You were the most vocal of those criticizing Duke Energy. Clearly, the voters accepted that.
Well, I think so. Duke has pledged to make it right, but I think their definition of making it right maybe fall a little short of what we think. They just want to pay us for our expenses, clean up a small portion of the spill, 5 or 10%, and that's it. I think we have to go beyond that because there's been a lot of damage to our reputation, our river's reputation. We depend on the river for recreation, to draw people here. We're the river district downtown. We've suffered a blow, and we've been working very hard for the last several years to build up the downtown and the whole town, and this has hurt us. And I think Duke has to come forth a bit more than just paying for the chemicals and the cleaning up a small portion of the spill.
More than compensatory, punitive damages as well.
It's like when there is pain and suffering and emotional distress, and there's been a lot of that. People are afraid to drink the water. I know still people will not drink anything but bottled water. I think the water's safe, but the perception is it's not.
Perception is reality.
It is reality.
Finally, just a quick note on the next 4 years. Again, those are a couple of specific issues, but one of the things that will dominate, has dominated, and will continue to dominate council's attention is relationship with the school board. We got 2 new school board members for a school system that's in transition. Clearly, with your vested interest in education, that'll be something I know you're looking forward to having now 4 more years to work with.
Right. This is the whole cornerstone of our economic development is good education. We will not get anywhere until people believe that the best school system is in Danville City. And then when people come and they ask how good the schools are, we can hold up our heads, pound our chest, and say, we have the top schools. And they will come here. So we have to get to that point. We have to improve our school system, or the whole process will be for naught.
Gary Miller, one of the 4 winners in tonight's Danville City Council race, a fellow Hokie who gets on me when the basketball team loses.
That's right.
It's my fault, of course.
It's your fault. Your team when they lose, mine when they win. Utilities.
Yeah. Well, a word also before we go on utilities. That's going to be probably over the next few weeks one of the biggest things that crops up. It's going to get interesting, basically.
Yeah, and even Thursday night I propose that we do something to alleviate this huge hit we've taken, congestion charges. You know, this power cost adjustment was touted to us as a way to level out the peaks and valleys of everybody's utility rates so they'd be constant through the year. And it seemed it's a great idea, but what's happened this year that's such a bad winter, the congestion charges, they call it, sort of the fine print, $4.8 million surcharge we are having to pay. And I don't think it's fair that our citizens have to pay the entire amount, because a lot of that's from northern states. They used a lot of power, but we're in a consortium that buys power. And I think we got a disproportionate amount of bill. You know, the more efficient you are and the less power you used, you still had to pay that. So, you know, we have rainy day reserve funds, and we don't like to dip into those, but I don't think it's fair to the citizens to have to foot the whole bill this time, the extra charges. So we're going to look at that Thursday night. I'm going to propose that we maybe have to dip into these rainy day funds to at least mitigate the fairly sizable increase in utility rates for this year.
That proposal will come when the city council meets on a Thursday night, and that's during the work session portion of the session. So it will not be an open session on Thursday. There are several items in the open session, but come work session time,
it's open to the public. But not for comment.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll be getting obviously more on utilities coming up, and you just got a little sneak preview on what Danville's vice mayor is going to be proposing in a couple of nights. Gary, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Gary Miller with 3,068 votes, one of the 3 incumbents who will be returning to Danville City Council July 1st. That's when council will hold their reorganizational meeting. Right now we're going to take a quick break, come back and talk to a couple of the winners in the school board race. Our coverage tonight on WBTM is being brought to you by Wilkinson Company Realtors. Hey, take care. Congrats. Good evening again. Chuck Vipperman back on WBTM's Election Central and on River District Television, River City TV, we should say. Been talking so much about the River District lately, can't get that out of my head. We talked to the 4 winners in the Danville City Council race. Now we're going to shift gears very quickly and talk to the winners in the school board. The one big source of drama tonight, as we were counting the totals, was that 3rd and final spot on the Danville School Board. It goes to Sharon Dones. First off, Sharon, congratulations. Tell us what it's been like. Obviously, tonight's been pretty interesting for you, I suppose. But tell us a little bit about this process of running for the Danville School Board.
It's been interesting.
I like that. Interesting.
Interesting.
Give us what prompted you to run in the first place? Any one event, several events, or several thoughts?
I love working with the community. I love working with children, and I just felt like I could offer something back to them.
And tell us a little bit about your background in terms of coming into this job, what will now be a 4-year appointment on the school board.
In the past, I owned a daycare center in Pennsylvania for about 7 or 8 years. Licensed daycare by the state of Pennsylvania. We were licensed to have 120 kids, and we were also licensed by Department of Education, which we had a kindergarten program, and then we had children up to age 12 in the after-school program. And I've just worked with children, mentoring children, just all my life.
I can tell it's a passion. You just looking into your eyes when you talk about working with children, and of course you'll be working indirectly in that respect with the school board. In the past several months during the run, of course, we've had some big issues come up with the school board. Of course, council elections and school board elections always come during budget times,
Right.
so that's always something to sink your teeth into. Just give us your thoughts on the state of the school board, so to speak, as you see it right now, as a soon-to-be member of the school board and not a veteran member.
I'd like to wait and get acclimated to the board first before making any comments.
I understand that. Give us an idea on, again, your passion and your work in the past has dealt with school, with kids in a daycare situation. School, again, a little different, a little more structured environment, but not really. Daycares, you have to plan ahead. You have to take into account parents, different kinds of parents, different kinds of children, and that's going to be an interesting perspective you bring to the school board, I would think.
Absolutely, and I also work in human resources, so
No, there you go.
work with people.
Yeah, and finally, just to note, you'll go undergo orientation for the next couple of months, getting ready for the first meeting in July. Sounds like, if I can glean correctly what you said before, you're going to be or at least try to be a good listener. Try to absorb this for the next couple of months.
Absolutely.
Sharon Dones, congratulations. 2,216 votes. One of two newcomers that'll be members of the Danville School Board in July. Congratulations, and thanks for taking time this evening.
Thank you.
Sharon Dones, one of the three winners in today's Danville School Board election, and I'm seeing somebody come in with a purple Sharon Dones shirt on right now. I assume you know her. We're going to talk to the lone incumbent that'll be returning to the Danville School Board. Philip Campbell picked up 2,761 votes this afternoon and evening. And Philip, welcome back to the school board. Very solid totals today. Clearly, the message resonated with voters to the tune of 2,761 votes.
And I want to thank all of the individuals in the city of Danville who voted for me to be on school board for another 4 years. It's special.
Tell us about the prior 4 years. There's nothing dull on the school board, that's for sure.
No.
But we have undergone a major transition. Again, we knew it was going to happen, and it's happened. And any change of that magnitude is never easy. Just give a sense of what it's like to be to have been a member of the school board during what may have been some of the biggest transitional periods this city has ever seen.
Yes, new superintendent, dealing with disciplinary situations. One of the things that I put emphasis on is last year we had 11,000 infractions. Another concern is the dropout rate, 6.2. And I think that as we move forward, there are a lot of things that are happening in DPS that I'm proud of, especially some of the partnerships that we have with many of the organizations across the city. One that really stands out in my mind is God's Storehouse, who provides backpacks for our kids at Woodbury every Friday for those kids to take supplies home. It has been proven that when a child does not eat or doesn't have a meal, that it takes 2 days for that particular child to recoup. And so with some of the issues that we have in the school system, my question in the next 4 years is, do we have problem children or do we have children with a problem?
Very good distinction there, and so much of it is in how you approach the problem. be that as it may. Now, again, of course, we're still breaking in a new superintendent. Dr. Ed Newsom has gone on board, and again, he came on at a time when there were going to be some significant changes anyway, regardless who was superintendent. And of course, he came in right on the tail end of a major transition with the closing of 3 elementary schools. I don't envy him his job, but it's been tough. And the past few weeks, of course, we have election time coming at budget time for the incumbent, so you have those issues coming up. But now we have more or less a school budget in place that gives more than a little attention to a reorganizational plan. It includes a little bit more for teachers. It includes a little bit more for technology. Now we'll have 2 new school board members.
Right.
The transition continues, but it sounds like, hopefully, crossing our fingers, we've rounded the corner in terms of massive change.
Sure, and we look forward to year 14, 15. I must say this, that I believe that superintendent's heart is about what's best for our kids, to make sure that they are college and career ready. I think that is the goal of the teachers, the principals, and this time of the year is actually the payoff. To see those kids get that diploma, there is no better feeling when you can shake that child's hand and they have an education that no one can take away from them. That, to me, is more precious as we work through the whole year.
That's the slam dunk moment for parents, but also for members of the school board. You got to feel a kinship with all the students that'll be walking across the stage here in a couple of weeks. Philip, congratulations. Welcome back to the school board. There's an old Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times. Oh, yeah, we're living that right now, I'd say.
And, of course, I certainly hope that as we move forward in the next 4 years, that we can certainly see what can happen with George Washington. As you know, with the multipurpose complex, that is not a project that has left certainly my mind, and certainly many others, I'm sure, in the city of Danville.
Mine too, for that matter.
That certainly by the time for another election, that we will have some things in place that our kids will have the best kind of feel that other institutions, as you know, have, that we can certainly give them the best.
Philip Campbell's been a lead part of the committee, the steering committee that's been looking into that. And, of course, the next 4 years, we know he'll be gainfully employed with the Danville School Board. Congratulations again,
sir.
Philip Campbell.
Thank you.
He'll return for 4 years on the Danville School Board. And right now, we're getting ready to wrap up our coverage here from Election Central. And we'll just give you very quickly the final vote totals. The Danville City Council election goes to the 3 incumbents and 1 newcomer. John Gilstrap, Alonzo Jones, and Gary Miller will return to City Council. James Buckner, the 1 newcomer that'll be joining them, he picked up 2,290 votes tonight, outpolling Dawn Witter by about 327 votes. The final separation there. In the school board, 1 incumbent and 2 newcomers. The 1 incumbent, Philip Campbell, returning. Stephen Gould and Sharon Dones will take their respective oaths of office at the school board reorganizational meeting in a couple of months. For Jack Garrett, for everyone else involved with River City Television tonight, I'm Chuck Vipperman, thanking our sponsors from Wilkins & Company Realtors. This has been City Council School Board election coverage on WBTM.